Greetings to all Samvada World viewers. I wish all the viewers on the 77th anniversary of our Independence Day. It is indeed a momentous occasion to all of us. What is freedom? Individually, the meaning of freedom differs from person to person. An old age man or an aged man considers himself free if he is out of the hospital and healthy. A child considered himself to be free if there is no studies or no schooling activity. But what does freedom mean to a nation? Is it protecting our borders freedom? Is that freedom, or is it alone freedom? In my view, freedom not only encompasses the safety of our boundaries or borders, but also the ability to conduct ourselves in our own culture without fear. By being able to conduct ourselves in our spiritual rituals, in our cultural festivals without fear or any obstacles is the meaning of freedom. There is no point in guarding our borders if we lose the battle within and lose our culture. It is akin to a strong tree bound by a chain, strong chain, but infested by termites inside. It is dying. The tree will die slowly, even though it is protected by a steel chain outside. Hence, freedom to practice our culture, to practice our religion, to practice our practices is utmost importance, and the meaning of freedom is not only to guard our boundaries. India's boundaries are very well protected by the armed forces and the associated paramilitary forces. As of now and in the near term, we see no problems on that score. The problems are more on the internal front. Daily news reports of depressing activities happening all around the country is indeed a disappointment to all of us. Numerous news channels and mainstream media outlets, or MSM are they are called, based on their ideology, propagate extreme views alienating one community or the other. These need to be pegged back by the government in order to maintain the diversity and the peace within the country. There has to be some order and some discipline in newsmaking. During this freedom struggle, and remembering our forefathers who granted us this, we owe ourselves the ability to filter this news and to take decisions rationally and in the interests of the nation. We are often told that our freedom came through non-violent means. This is but partly true. Our freedom, no doubt, owed its pace to non-violent means, but there was an element of violent activity also as part of our freedom struggle. Today, I would like to talk a few sentences about one of these violent activities. On February 18, 1946, the Royal Indian Navy sailors, amounting to about 20,000 of them, declared a mutiny against the Britishers. These sailors were battle-hardened from World War II and had defeated the Royal Japanese Navy. They were not commoners. They were battle-hardened, tough warriors. They took over 77 ships all across the peninsular India, from Andaman and Nicobar Islands to Visakhapatnam, right up to Karachi. They even took over Butcher Island, which held the armaments Bombay Presidency. The Britishers were in a state of panic. They called upon the Royal Indian Air Force and the Indian Army Gurkha Regiment to put down the mutiny. To their horror, both these organizations, the Royal Indian Air Force and the Gurkha Regiment, refused to open fire on the mutineers. This showed solidarity between the troops and was a sense of astonishment to the Britishers. Their hold on the Indian troops was weakening by the second. They understood that this was a tenacious situation, and one more spark from the civil leadership in support of these mutineers would have given us freedom in 1946. But alas, our civil leadership, be it the Indian National Congress or the Muslim League, did not support the mutineers. The civil population of Bombay did indeed support. On February 22nd, 1946, Bombay Presidency declared a bandh and all the business activities came to a standstill. However, the political pressure worked and the mutineers laid down their arms. About 100 sailors were killed in this mutiny and about 470 sailors were dismissed from service. We rewarded these sailors for their nationalistic duty by not taking them back into service once India gained our independence. These are the kind of mistakes that we should not repeat. Let us remember those Indian Navy sailors and Indian Air Force and Gorkha Regiment sailors who stood against the might of British Empire and gave them the scare of a lifetime. So what can we do today in order to enrich India's freedom? As I have told earlier, our duty is to maintain and enrich our culture. We have become the single largest country with an English-speaking audience or English-speaking population. It has come to such a point that we have forgotten our mother tongue and our vernacular languages. One must learn all the languages in the world, but one must not forget one's own mother tongue. Nations which have lost their own culture have ceased to be entities. I'll not name them. Some other world's viewers are intelligent enough to understand the direction in which I'm talking. But some nations have walked the path between development and their own culture. Nations like Russia, nations like China have ensured development does not become an obstacle to their practices or culture. We should also follow the same philosophy. Our business activities or our affairs in the materialistic world or in the world will have a dependency on the globalist order. But in our homes, in our own communities, we should strive to practice our culture and enrich it so that we can hand over the same to our children. If we do not hand over this culture and enrich it to our children, to the next generation, freedom is but in name only. The greatest example of this is Afghanistan. Post the regime change by a hostile takeover from a fundamentalist Islamic organization called Taliban, the rights of the women to work and that of small girls to attend school have been taken off. The rights of ladies to walk alone in the market have been curtailed. In a few years' time, the entire nation will digress. Same is the state with other countries which have fallen to fundamentalist forces. We should ensure that our history as is not forgotten. Our Saraswati civilization had such a forward-looking civilization when the Europeans were hunter-gatherers. 9,000 years ago, we had the most developed civilization. We should not forget that. Recent history of about 1,000 years should not wash away our rich history and culture of a millennia. We should imbibe the spirit of our forefathers in our children and in ourselves. Imbibe the strength and valor of the Chola kingdom, the Rashtrakutas, the Pallavas, the Vijayanagar kingdoms, Maratha kingdom, and the Sisodia clan of Mewar should not be forgotten and should be imbibed in each one of us. Only then will this freedom mean anything and be of value to us. And India is an India only when we preserve it culturally.